Picture a fortress-level VIP room in Miami, where even the A-listers struggle to get past the velvet rope. The bass is rattling the walls, drinks are flowing, pure mayhem, and then total dead silence. Every neck creates whiplash because Michael Jordan is currently standing inside Rich Paul's personal space. And let me tell you, nobody is smiling. This wasn't a photo op or a networking moment. MJ had a vice grip on Rich's shoulder, looking like he was about to put him through the drywall. It was that cold, 1991 killer stare. The GOAT had finally snapped after a decade of disrespect. Rich Paul looked ready to vanish into thin air. All that smooth talk on podcasts evaporates when actual basketball royalty is breathing down your neck. You need to hear the insanity Rich has been spewing to understand why. Behind the scenes, it has been getting nasty. We are talking about Rich linking Jordan to the crack epidemic and questioning his status as the greatest. These aren't just sports debates. They are personal attacks. If you think this is just about championship rings and box scores, you are blind to the actual war going on behind the curtain. Klutch Sports is running a coordinated campaign to rewrite the history books before LeBron officially hangs up his sneakers. And frankly, it reeks of desperation. To understand why MJ was ready to crash a Miami gala just to check Rich Paul, you have to look at the garbage Rich has been feeding the culture. It really started spiraling with his Platinum Antlers comment back in 2023.
But I just think LeBron's Antlers is in platinum and Michael's may be in gold. Why? Because when you think about, he had to be compared to Mike. Who did Mike have to be compared to?
Talk about it.
Let that sink in. It is a masterclass in spin. He is trying to convince us that managing hype is harder than physically destroying every team in the league for 15 straight years. So, dubbing yourself the chosen one on a magazine cover is heavier than getting physically beaten by the bad boy Pistons every night. Give me a break. It is textbook corporate strategy. Since they cannot beat MJ's 6-0 finals record, they have to devalue it to make it seem less important. But the vibe turned sinister on January 6th. Rich went on Max Kellerman's show with a whiteboard and dropped one of the most bizarre takes in sports history. Instead of respecting the 6 rings or MJ's business savvy, he literally pinned the brand's success on the crack epidemic. I am not joking.
These people had basically not even careers or high-paying jobs. They just had hustles.
Mm-hmm.
So now when you bring forth the crack epidemic, it created a revenue stream amongst a group of consumers that, number one, would have never had that dollar to spend.
He explicitly said people didn't buy the shoes to be like Mike. They bought them to emulate the local drug dealer with the BMW and the girlfriend.
And you used me as an example because I was sitting in front of you. You said, it's not that Michael Jordan did this, it's that the influencer who had the BMW or whatever, you said, like Max with the fly girl and the BMW. So you're saying
what
that
I was saying was the hustler.
He went as far as saying sitcom stars like Will Smith did more for the sneakers than Jordan did. That is an analysis. It is delusion. It was an attack on the brand's DNA. MJ built a $4 billion empire on discipline and dominance, while Rich is out here calling it a trend. That was the breaking point. You cannot trash a legend's life work just to prop up your own client. Everyone knows you don't touch MJ's legacy or the people who supported him. Rich Paul decided to target both. He is the architect of LeBron's image, and he realizes the only way to elevate his guy is to tear down the benchmark. That is why he keeps attacking the 80s context. He implies if LeBron played in 1988, he would be the billionaire. But he forgets that MJ literally invented the blueprint for the global superstar from scratch. Before Mike, it was just guys in short shorts. After Mike, the entire landscape shifted. Players became icons. Rich calls it cultural synergy, but that is just a fancy way to minimize the grind Jordan put in to change the game. He even hinted MJ only succeeded because he understood royalties. As if being a business genius somehow makes the basketball less impressive. This is where the manipulation peaks. He pushes the narrative that Jordan had it easy because he didn't deal with the 24-hour news cycle. He claims Twitter would have exposed Jordan's bad games, which is Rich coming from the guy who curates every headline for LeBron. The irony is blinding. The ultimate spin doctor is acting like MJ had a free pass. It is a calculated move. Rich claimed critics like Peter Vexey protected MJ. Anyone alive in the 90s knows that is absolute garbage.
That's a whole nother thing that Mike never had to deal with because his hardest critic was probably Peter Vessey.
Yep. Straight up.
You see what I'm saying?
It is always an excuse, luck, timing, or weak competition. It is a slow drip campaign designed to erode the Jordan legend over time. The goal is to make LeBron's ascension feel natural when he retires. But Jordan has spent a lifetime reading defenses and spotting traps. He saw this coming a mile away. When he grabbed Rich's shoulder, it wasn't just rage. It was a message. You can buy the narratives and the podcasts, but you cannot purchase the feeling of watching him dominate in '98. If you think this charity event clash was just a quick word, you are mistaken. Rumor has it MJ made a power move that could isolate LeBron from the league office entirely. It all went down in that Miami VIP section. It was a January night, bass rattling your ribcage, the room stacked with A-listers and legends. The moment MJ invaded his personal space, Rich's Hollywood veneer cracked. He is used to playing chess from a distance, untouchable. But Jordan is pure primal instinct. No handlers, no scripts. Insiders say he didn't even raise his voice. He just stood there with an unlit cigar, staring Rich down like a predator. He leaned in and whispered something that froze the room. You can buy the media, and you can buy the sneakers, but you can't buy my history. That one sentence dismantled 15 years of PR work. Rich just stood there, drink in hand, wishing for an eject button. He knows how to handle corporate suits, but this was different. Jordan doesn't play those games, though, and he wasn't done yet. He leaned in and delivered the dagger. You don't get to rewrite my history just because you can't sell your own product. That wasn't just a moment. That was a total flex. The kind of move that dismantles an entire strategy in a split second. MJ got his point across without raising his voice once. Look, if LeBron's narrative actually held water, you wouldn't need to spend every podcast segment trying to bury me. And let's keep it 100, that wasn't a lie. Jordan let go of Rich's shoulder, took a long drag from his cigar, and walked away like the royalty he is. No drama, no scene, just pure alpha energy. But if you think MJ let it go after that, you seriously underestimate the black cat mentality. While Rich was still trying to compose himself, MJ was already making moves in the shadows. Rumor has it he made a phone call that could strip LeBron of his biggest allies in the league office before his farewell tour even kicks off. And make no mistake, this isn't all coming from Rich Paul's camp. LeBron has been running his own silent, passive-aggressive campaign for years now. He won't look Jordan in the eye and say it, but the subtle jabs have been flying for a long time. It really became undeniable after that comeback in the 2016 finals.
That one right there made me the greatest player of all time.
For
That's
so
what I
many
felt.
reasons.
For some reason, that comment really struck a nerve with hoop heads. Jordan put in 15 seasons, grabbed 6 rings, and never once felt the need to tell people who he was. He didn't crown himself. He just showed up and earned the title. When LeBron announced it himself, he wasn't just hyping his own name. He was quietly trying to shove Jordan down to number 2. That didn't scream confidence. It screamed insecurity. That's exactly what you say when you know the public isn't fully sold yet. Then you have the ghost remark from that 2016 Sports Illustrated piece, where he claimed his motivation was chasing this ghost, specifically the ghost from Chicago. It sounds respectful on the surface, but dig a little deeper. Ghosts aren't real. They're shadows, folklore, something people whisper about rather than witness. Painting MJ as a phantom turns his career into ancient history, like a myth instead of a concrete force that actually dominated the league. That is a textbook Klutch Sports tactic. They want to frame the 90s as a fairy tale, so the modern game feels more valid. It makes LeBron's longevity feel tangible while turning Jordan's dominance into a fable. And hold tight, because we're going to dismantle that longevity argument with hard data in a minute. But if you need evidence that MJ is watching, just look at the Kendrick Perkins situation. Big Perk was on the Jordan brand payroll for years, getting unreleased kicks mailed to his doorstep before they hit the shelves. But the moment he flipped the script and started shouting that LeBron was the undisputed GOAT, those packages dried up.
I used to get boxes in the mail all the time of the Jays before they even hit the stores. I started my media career. As soon as I said that LeBron James was the GOAT, those boxes stopped coming.
Michael Jordan isn't just some retired billionaire chilling on a golf course. He's a ruthless competitor. He takes this stuff to heart. When his own guys start disrespecting the legacy, he sends a message to the whole association. Pick a team, but don't think you can rock the king's sneakers while trying to steal his throne. And the craziest part? LeBron trying to act like he's just an innocent fan in all this. During his March 2025 spot on the Pat McAfee show, LeBron confessed that he and MJ have zero relationship. He was like, "Who? Me and Jordan?" Then he claims they're in a good spot precisely because they don't talk. He tried to spin it as being focused on the craft, saying maybe they'll link up after he retires. Let's cut the nonsense. MJ only talks to people he actually respects. If Jordan isn't answering the phone, it's because he sees right through the facade. He stays out of reach on purpose. Letting LeBron in just gives their marketing machine more B-roll for the next documentary. You notice how Rich Paul keeps harping on LeBron's 23 seasons? It's intentional. Longevity is their main pitch, because the second you shift the conversation to peak performance, the narrative collapses. When you analyze a player at their absolute ceiling, where they bend the game to their will, LeBron isn't just trailing Jordan. He's not even in the same stratosphere. Rich wants you looking at total points and total minutes, because piling up stats is the only area where LeBron takes the W. But in Jordan's bracket, and for anyone who actually knows ball, it's never been about punching the clock for the longest time. It's about what you did to the guy standing across from you. Take 1988, easily one of the scariest runs in league history. Jordan didn't just bag the MVP, he snagged Defensive Player of the Year while dropping 35 points a night to lead the league in scoring. Understand what that means. He was the deadliest scorer on the planet and the best defender on earth simultaneously. That isn't longevity. That is absolute mastery of the sport. That same year, he led the league with 3.16 steals a game and was blocking shots like a big man. Compare that to LeBron's shelf. 0 Defensive Player of the Year trophies. Zip. He's been chasing that tier of greatness for over 20 years and never caught it. The closest he ever got was 2013, and he lost that hardware to Marc Gasol. Klutch Sports has spent years claiming he was robbed, but the tape doesn't lie. Gasol was the anchor for the league's top defense and had the analytics to back up the win. Look at the macro view. In just 15 seasons, Jordan made first-team All-Defense 9 times. LeBron only managed it 5 times in 23 years. That's not a conversation. That's a chasm. It's the difference between a guy who can defend and a guy who steps on the floor to break your spirit on both ends. And don't get me started on buckets. MJ took 10 scoring titles in 11 full seasons with Chicago. LeBron has exactly 1 in 23 years. Just 1. But this is where the spin comes in. Rich Paul hops on podcasts, trying to frame MJ's scoring ability as a defect, claiming his high usage rate hurt his teammates, which is hilarious, considering that flaw resulted in a flawless 6-for-6 finals record. Meanwhile, LeBron's superior playmaking has resulted in him losing on the big stage 6 times. But the most pathetic excuse Klutch pushes is the illegal defense myth. LeBron loves talking about zone defense, like MJ was staring at wide open lanes every night. That is pure fantasy. They want you to believe the 90s were soft because of the rule book, completely ignoring the Jordan rules. Detroit's entire game plan was basic. Hammer MJ until he can't get back up. You had Rick Mahorn putting a forearm through your chest and Bill Laimbeer swinging at your head. That was just a Tuesday night. There was no freedom of movement, no spacing, and definitely no foul calls just because you breathed on a superstar. Yet Rich has the audacity to say MJ had it easy. Illegal defense just meant you had to fake guarding your man. Hand-checking was fully legal. If you drop Prime Jordan into today's soft whistle league, he wouldn't just lead in scoring. He'd average 50 a night. Rich loves using the word timing to downplay the 90s. But the reality is that era was a battlefield. You had Riley's Knicks and the bad boy Pistons playing actual combat sports. Jordan didn't just survive that. He conquered it. Now, let's destroy the weakest Klutch talking point of all, the idea that MJ quit in 93. They try to spin his retirement as a lack of stamina compared to LeBron's 23-year marathon. All that proves is they don't understand how a true winner thinks. Jordan didn't quit. He completed the game. He hit the summit, looked around, saw no challengers left, and walked away a champion. Then he came back, three-peated again, and left in 98 like it was written in the stars. Meanwhile, LeBron is still chasing counting stats deep into his 40s. MJ didn't need 23 seasons to make his point. He did it in 15. And like he told Rich Paul in that Miami lounge, play as long as you want, but don't disrespect the greatest to ever lace him up. You know that old playbook Rich uses to frame Jordan as one-dimensional? Yeah, he is still running that same play.
I said, yeah, if I'm starting a team, I'm taking LeBron number 1. I'm still taking LeBron number 1. And I'll take MJ to take the last shot.
And adding, I would only take Mike for the final shot, is a backhanded way of saying Jordan lacked basketball IQ. That is where the theoretical talk collapses and actual history takes over. Let's rewind to the 91 NBA Finals. It was Jordan versus Magic. The media spun the same narrative Rich is pushing right now, that MJ was selfish. So, how did this selfish scorer respond? He put up 31.2 points, 11.4 assists, and 6.6 rebounds, shooting a ridiculous 55.8%. That was not luck. That was Jordan proving he could dominate the game on his own terms. Let's put that in proper perspective. MJ did not just beat Magic Johnson, he outpassed the greatest playmaker in history on the biggest stage. We are talking 11.4 assists per game. You never hear about that stat because it ruins the Jordan was just a scorer storyline. Rich Paul avoids that number like the plague. He prefers to double down on the exhausted argument that LeBron is the greatest simply because he stuck around longer.
But we know who the best player ever is. His name is LeBron James.
It is the same pundits, the same shows, and the same talking points, all shouting that longevity equals dominance. The rumor mill is buzzing about agency-friendly reporters planted at major networks to push this accumulation narrative nonstop. They want you to believe that compiling totals is the same as greatness. But you cannot just stack up numbers and call it a legacy. That is why that charity event in Miami was such a turning point. That was not just a little tension in the room. It was a line drawn in the sand. The days of MJ staying quiet and letting people disrespect his name are over. So, the real question is, who do you believe? The man who went 6 for 6 in the finals, never needed a Game 7, and crushed every obstacle in his path? Or the agent who needs a whiteboard, a podcast tour, and a media blitz just to rationalize why his client deserves the top spot? Back in the 90s, teams had to triple team MJ on the floor just to have a chance. In 2026, Rich Paul has to triple team the media just to keep LeBron in the GOAT conversation. Now, I want to hear your take. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you felt this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with a real basketball head. We are only getting started. I will see you in the next one.